Da, 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 da. I don't have music this morning. I'm coming from a buddy's house for tonight. But anyways, welcome everyone. Just want to welcome everyone to Getting Back to Zero. This is the Tuesday edition of the show. I got a couple of guests on. I want to talk about a topic that I think we're going to hit a little bit about worthiness tonight. But it's I got on Instagram I think it's Sober Celebrities or something, a site that popped in for me, and it just talks about sober celebrities. And I'm trying to figure out, I don't know why, looking at this, why I feel better knowing there are celebrities that are in sobriety as well. I can't figure out why I suddenly feel in a safer group knowing that Phil Collins and Denzel Washington, David Bowie, Alice Cooper, Slash, obviously, Mel Gibson, Metallica, Ron Wood, Bradley Cooper, Stephen King, who I guess wrote one of his novels. He doesn't even remember. Sugar Ray Leonard, the boxer, didn't know about that. Flea, Jason Bateman from Ozarks, which I just love. Joe Walsh, obviously. Buzz Aldrin, never. My man, Brett Favre, John Goodman, Steven Tyler, Tim McGraw, Rob Williams, Alice Cooper, John Travolta, Liam Neeson, Ringo Starr, Demi. Whole list goes on. Elton and Ben Affleck, Mayer, John Mayer, Samuel L. Jackson. But I don't know. I'm curious. Maybe I'll start with our guest. But why I feel better knowing that there are other people that are going through the same crap that I went through. It'd be interesting to know. So, anyways, but it's to realize. I think I want to talk tonight about worthiness, about feeling worthy of sobriety and worthy of the forgiveness of sobriety. I don't know, some of those things we'll just kind of open it up and see. But I think when I see that other people that maybe aren't in the position that I felt like I was in, someone that's got the prestige, the money, whatever the case may be, to know that they're going through what I'm going through and experiencing similar. I don't know why that makes me feel safer, but it does. So with that, I want to bring in Katie from California. Katie, how you doing? I'm so glad.
I am amazing. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm going to introduce Todd first, but I got to get back to you for boring stuff. But well, not boring stuff. But Todd, good to see you. What's with the shirt? I thought you were in Nebraska.
I am in Nebraska. This is in honor of the baseball season being officially postponed today.
Is it now? Did they officially postpone it?
Well, the first two series.
Because opening day in Cincinnati with the Reds is a big tradition, but
yeah,
so that's interesting. Yeah. Hey, Katie, so where and why have you been all over the globe?
I love to travel, and when I got sober initially about 7 years ago, I decided that it was time to live my life. And when I put alcohol aside, my priorities changed. I was able to save money for the first time in my life. I was able to not worry if I had $100 so that I could make it through till the next check came. And I made it a possibility. I bought a house in Nicaragua on the beach, which is my dream, is to live on the beach. And I go about 4 times a year, stay for about a month, and lay around on the beach a lot.
That's just wrong. So any of us that are looking to get sober, we can guarantee that that's what we'll get. That'll be
sure, if you work for it.
No, that's fantastic. So why, money aside, why couldn't you have done that prior to sobriety?
Well, I was semi-successful, meaning I run my own business. I had a car, I had a house. I was on the outside, it looked like my life was put together, but I didn't know it. Like my Lexus was 5 months behind on registration. And, there was always beer in the fridge, and that was the priority. So I couldn't really do anything big because you can't spend it not knowing when it's coming again, being self-employed, and I have the ability to rely on God and not solely rely on myself. And every time that I was being obedient to God, like a sponsee would say, "Hey, can you sponsor me?" And my first thought is, "No, I don't have time." And my mouth would say yes. And I'd be driving and be at the post office 10 minutes later, and there's a $5,000 check in the mail that I wasn't expecting. And I felt like God was paying me to be sober. And I know that's a little outlandish, but every time that I didn't think I had time, or somebody would call me and say, "Can you take me to a meeting?" I would think I should be working right now, not running off to a noon meeting. But I did it. And I really believe that that was rewarded with more success.
So Todd, I'll throw this at you, but she brought this up and I love it. Beer was my priority. And I'm not talking financial, but decisions to live a life when the priority, instead of chasing a dream, whatever the case may be, living a life that the priority is alcohol. Did you, I mean, everyone's path is different. And I want to talk about worthiness today, but what is alcohol and priority misalignment? Maybe that's the words we want to use. Priority misalignment mean to you?
So I'll give you a less impactful example than Katie mentioned with her career, but I always laugh at this. When I was drinking on the weekends, when I would look at the calendar and figure out when the kids stuff was and figure out when I was going to have free time, I would always I'd try to kind of map it out ahead of time and think, okay, if I need to clean the garage I need to clean the garage at some point this weekend. Well, if we had kids stuff Saturday morning and I couldn't do it then, and then Sunday morning was free, but we had a social outing Saturday night, it was like getting the garage cleaned on Sunday morning was not an option because I was going to drink a lot Saturday night and probably not feel very good and want to get up on Sunday morning. It never dawned on me that I had a choice to make if I wanted to still get up on Sunday morning and clean the garage. It was just, it was almost like I was hostage to whatever, when the drinking was going to take place that weekend. And depending on how much family stuff we had, going on, sometimes I only had a small window to fit it in, but I was going to fit it in. And so all the other stuff, the cleaning the garage, the all that other stuff, it was like it wasn't even a choice. And I remember the first time this dawned on me after I stopped drinking, I was trying to plan something out on a weekend or something and thought, oh my God, I can do this whenever I want this weekend because I'm not going to be hungover. And so I didn't, in the throes of it, I never really realized how beholden I was to my drinking. But I was absolutely, whether I would admit it or not, or whether it was on a conscious level or not, it absolutely took precedence over almost everything. And it wasn't not even like, so yeah, it didn't keep me from going to my kids' sporting events or showing up or whatever, but it did keep me from, I always say that alcohol, even if you don't show up to your kids' stuff drunk, it invades the situation. It intrudes on it. If I was at an event at 5 o'clock on a Saturday, instead of enjoying the sporting event 100% and being present and all that stuff, I'd be thinking about, okay, 45 more minutes and we can get home, or we're going to this restaurant afterwards. It was always out there. It was always on my mind. It was always, so even if you're not physically engaging in the act of drinking, or at least this was true for me, it was still invading and intruding on my life, way more than I realized until I stopped. So yes, it absolutely took precedence over a lot of things for me.
So Katie, out of a let's just say a 12-hour day of being awake, just for grins, for 12 hours, how many of those hours was alcohol touching your lips?
The majority of the time, I could wait until 5 o'clock.
Okay, so let's just
The
go.
majority,
Let's go a third of the day, a third of your wake time, alcohol's touching your lips.
at least.
How
Some
much?
days, much
How
sooner.
much of those 12 hours was alcohol a part of your life?
100%.
Why?
I don't think that, just like Todd said, I don't think that I consciously did it, but I would arrange things around how, and mine was a lot more social. I excused it in my head as I just like to be around people. And so when's my next people chance, which really was when is my next drinking chance, because drinking went with people. So if I have the kid thing on Saturday morning, I'm thinking, okay, who's going to be at the kid thing? And are they going to be drinking? And can I get away with my cooler with me? Or is it something I'm going to need to wait till after? I would go to a swim meet for my son, and I'm ready to leave way before it's over. I would make up stuff and say, my stomach doesn't feel good. We're going to sneak out early. We're not going to wait for the last one. Or, hey, can you take my shift? I'll take your early one next time, if I was volunteering, because my mind was getting to the next thing. So even like Todd said, if alcohol wasn't a part of it, it was consuming my mind to the point that being present was extremely difficult.
This may be a Midwestern thing, but when you're in the Midwest and your beer's waiting at home, swim events, the clap of thunder is, you just lost 40 minutes minimum, because out of the pool 40 minutes until the last. It's like, no, that was me. I burped. That was the car backfired. For God's sakes, don't do this. We're already going till 11:30. I mean, I think people that were not drinking felt the same way, but it was like, and then that was brutal. So you two have both answered the call so well for me and helped me so much. So I'm going to pick on you and play devil's advocate. And I want to hear both of your response on this. But Todd, you just said you alcohol held you hostage. When and Katie, you just were saying you were with your social events. I was, in my mind, as your new person that's coming to you with alcohol issues, I was funnier when I was drinking. I was happier to be around everyone, probably more enjoyable to be around. Maybe so how is that holding me hostage? Because everything that I got with the events you're talking about, Katie, those social events, or Todd, you're going out to so. Okay, who cares about tomorrow morning when I'm in the garage and I got a hangover? That thing has been dirty for years. It can stay dirty. I'm losing the life of the party, the fun parent, the whatever, willing to do all these things because of alcohol. So why is this thing? How am I being held hostage?
Well, for me, it was number one, all that stuff I thought about myself wasn't really true. I wasn't that funny when I was drunk.
I couldn't dance as good as I thought I could.
Right. My kids will tell you I'm not that funny now, even though I think I am. But most of that stuff isn't true. For me, the reason it held me hostage was all the stuff that comes after, what you just described, Jeff, the life of the party, the laughing, if you look into the window, if you're sitting outside a house and you look into a window and there's a party and people are drinking, it looks really fun. We all know it's not quite that fun. And you don't see the next morning, you don't see the next day, you don't see the next night. All that stuff that came with it for me was what held me hostage. The shame, the embarrassment, the regret, the constant cycle of feeling like I couldn't manage this drinking thing. Like, what is wrong with you? Why can't you drink like a normal person? And the constant trying to, and then, succeeding sometimes, but then always falling down, always. That takes its toll on you. That's where the hostage stuff came for me. But I will say, I had a big struggle with, to your point, Jeff, about I identified very deeply as a drinker and as someone who anyone could call up and say, "Hey, let's go get a beer." Yeah, let's go. I like being that person. I felt like I kind of needed to be that person. I didn't want to let that person go. There was a whole persona, personality, all that stuff wrapped up in my drinking that I was really afraid to let go. And it took a while. And that, looking back, that seems a little silly, but at the time it seemed very heavy, because I identified a lot with my drinking, and I thought I was losing part of myself, that was really scary, that I wasn't sure I wanted to do. So that was a big thing for me that held me back from taking the leap for a long time.
Katie?
I would love to answer that. Very similar to Todd. You saw the first hour of my drinking, and that first hour, I might have been fun and laughing and the life of the party. But as the night grew on, and I stumbled and I fell down and I hit on everybody's boyfriend or husband, and I went home with somebody different and made horrible decisions, and then ended up at 2:00 in the morning crying myself to sleep with a beer next to me in bed alone. The progression of the night is what you don't know about you as a drunk, Jeff. You were fun. You were happy. You are the life of the party for the first hour. And I'm saying hour, I don't know where it starts to change. But at some point, you're just an obnoxious drunk that nobody wants to talk to anymore. And the image, I totally get what Todd was saying. The image of who Katie Girl Has Fun is, that was my screen name for everything. Katie Girl Has Fun. And that image that I thought of me, my identity, totally involved drinking. How do I go on the Rubicon and not drink? How? I've never seen a soul that didn't drink. I found out later that there are people who go that don't drink. I just didn't never pay attention to them.
So
But
what's different at the Rubicon? Why do we not think we can go on the Rubicon without drinking?
I didn't think I could do anything without drinking at the time, but the Rubicon in particular is like a big camping party, four-wheeling thing. And I never went four-wheeling without drinking. I never went camping without drinking. I never did anything without drinking. So I didn't know how to do those things sober. And it was amazing. The first time I went sober, I think I had about 30 days. And it was beautiful. I had never noticed the beauty of the Rubicon. The slabs of granite that are just amazing. The views, I never noticed any of that. All I was there for was the fun. It was a lot scarier. Like my bravery kind of went away a little when I didn't have alcohol for that liquid courage. And, the guys didn't pay as much attention to me. Well, because I was an easy target and drunk and, duh. But when I did it sober, it was a whole new experience. And I didn't know that I could do that. I didn't know I knew how. How do you go boating? What do you take on the boat? Like, what do you drink? I don't know if you noticed, but I have like 4 bottles of water everywhere I go. I don't know how to not drink. And it's just changed from alcohol to water, which is great. My doctor even told me I drink too much water and I wash out all the sodium in myself. But anyway, that's a side note. My liver is much healthier.
The letting go. Okay, well, let me go back to what you said, that you cried yourself to sleep, and we all have our version of crying ourselves to sleep, however that is. Why did you forget it in the morning? Why did you forget those tears? Because I'm trying to figure out why I did, when in the morning when I wake up going, done, 4
I
o'clock.
didn't forget them. I picked up alcohol again to push them away. I didn't forget them. I just drank them away again, which is why I needed to pick up again the next day, because your problems don't go away when you drink them away. They're still there the next day. And then if you can't handle it on day one, what makes you think you're going to be able to handle it on day two?
So how did you
And
break that cycle, Katie? What is, and there's someone that's going to be listening going, yeah, I get that. And so how's that cycle broken?
I got to the point that the incomprehensible demoralization was just too much. All of those things I did when I was drunk, I could just, like drink away again. But the final straw for me was I had gone on a vacation with my 4 sisters and a good friend of mine and spent 9 days with this girl. And twice, 2 different sisters of mine came up and asked me if she was suicidal. And I was like, no, she's kidding. And 10 days after the trip, she committed suicide. Well, I was the last person that spent any amount of time with her. And I was at her funeral and at her viewing, and every one of her family, her sisters, her parents, every loved one came up to me wanting to know, like, was she really depressed? What was she like those last few days? And I lied because I had no idea. I was so self-consumed in me and my drinking and men that I don't know how she was. I couldn't tell you. My honest answer would have been, I don't know. I just spent 9 days with the girl, but I was drunk the whole time and revolved around me. That I never stopped to ask her how she was. And I have a degree in psychology. I'm a psychiatric technician. I deal with this stuff all the time, not currently in my job, but previously. And I should have recognized those things. And if I'd have been a good friend, I might have. Not to say that I could have prevented it, but the final straw for me was having to face her family and lie to them because I had no idea what she was like, even though I just spent 9 days with her day in and day out.
Todd,
I don't know why that was the final straw, but it was. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, we gotta find. I mean, it's everyone. I hate the fact that we have to hit a bottom or find a final straw. And everyone's is. I think Todd and I both have higher bottoms than others. I've never worn the handcuffs. How I avoided it, I don't know. But it's pure luck. But Todd, did your drinking affect only you when you quit? Did you know that was? I'm assuming the answer is no. So I'm cheating and ruining your story. But I'll let you answer that question. Did it affect you? But when you say no, it didn't. Yeah, it affected others because I'm such a sleuth. Why did you know it at the time that you quit drinking?
That I was done?
No, that you were. Did you know the ramifications? How your drinking was affecting others when you quit, or did you learn about that? Because I think I learned about that. I think when I quit, it was much more for me. And then I learned, wow, I hit some other people pretty hard with this. I didn't realize it. But I'm just curious, was that a decider for you, I guess?
Yes and no. I mean, at the end of the day, I did it for myself, but getting to that point had a lot of outside influences, chiefly which were my wife and my kids. And my wife never said you need to stop drinking. She was always like, I don't understand why you can't drink like a normal person. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't either. I would like to. But she never gave any ultimatums or anything like that. Frankly, she was more understanding than I think I would have been if the roles had been reversed. But it was causing problems in our marriage over the years, where for some strange reason she was getting tired of me always being the drunkest person in the room. And so we'd have the same fight over and over again. And I knew that was causing some strain, and I felt responsible for that. And I felt bad that I was not only was I not doing anything to fix it, but I was perpetuating it every time something like this happened. And then my kids were getting older. You know, my oldest is 16 right now, but they were getting to the age where, you know, they knew what was going on. They saw mom and dad drinking, and they saw other adults drinking, and they were understanding when people drank too much and all that stuff. And I was really starting to get bothered by how I was potentially affecting them. And I didn't, you know, there were a handful of moments where they saw me way too drunk than a kid should ever see their parents. And that obviously makes you feel like absolute garbage. Mm-hmm. There weren't a lot of them, but there were enough. And I also knew that there would be more. I knew I couldn't lie. I got to a point where I couldn't lie to myself and say that I was going to put a stop to that. I knew there would be more. That thought really bothered me, that I knew that would happen again. But I don't know if I truly understood the value of being a parent who doesn't drink until I stopped, and have just kind of seen some of the benefits of that with my kids, their friends, just the parenting dynamic in general. I knew it would be good for them. I knew it would be good for me. I knew it would be good for our relationship, but I didn't fully appreciate how good that would be. That's been one of the best parts of this by far, is the example I'm setting for them, and what it's done for our relationship.
You know, and Katie, I'll throw this one at you, but there are people that are heavy bottom drinkers, and they look at someone like Todd and say, okay, he's got this great family, he drinks too much, you know, probably drinks too much, they've seen him drunk a couple of times, needs to do it, he deserves to have his life because he's a good guy. Me, I'm not worthy of it. My family might be worthy of my sobriety, but I'm a bum compared to Todd. So how do I justify? And that's where I wanted to talk about worthiness tonight, because I see people that I guarantee they look at themselves, or they look at someone like anyone of, you know, that's got sobriety, and say, well, sure, they're worthy of getting sober, and their family deserves them to be sober, and they deserve to be sober for their family. But me, look at what I've done. I don't deserve any of this. I'm not worthy of it. And it's easier to maybe accept failure than to believe that I deserve to come out of it. I mean, Katie, you got a lot more experience with being a sponsor. I know that's an AA term, but you know, whatever, it can be a friend. I don't care. But how do you run into that, where you see people that are just, sure, that person deserves it, but you want the list of what
Absolutely.
I've done?
Absolutely. Every fifth step, for those who aren't familiar with the steps, the fifth step is when the sponsee kind of tells their deepest, darkest, awful stuff, and you kind of work through it with your sponsor. And every single one of them, when you get to the end, there's like something they didn't want to tell you because they were just too embarrassed or too ashamed. And almost every time I've done everything they've said. I just didn't get caught. I didn't go to prison. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't get DUIs. You know, those things never happened in my life. So it looked pretty on the outside, but the inside was a black hole, yucky. I didn't feel worthy of anything. I didn't feel worthy of my child. I didn't feel like I deserved anything. And that is a commonality among all of us who have this alcoholism. We all have this great ego at times, and the worthless piece of shit on the other end of the scale. And we bounce back and forth between that. And I could walk around with the most confident person. I got it all together. And inside, I'm feeling like that worthless piece of shit that's faking it, that's really faking life. And I think that everyone feels that, regardless of your bottom, regardless of whether you're Todd with the family or me with a successful business, and or somebody who has a car or somebody who doesn't. None of us feel worthy. That's a commonality.
I'm going to bring
one
in.
of the
No, go ahead. I'm going to bring in Megan, who's new to our group. Hey, Megan, how you doing?
I'm good. I am. This is my first time doing this, and I'm glad I was able to do from my phone from Safari for some reason.
We're thrilled you're here.
Obviously, I can't hear well, and I have the mic. Hi, Katie. Hi, Ryan. Wait, no, that's not right. Sorry, my eyes.
No, that's Todd. But hey,
Hi, Todd.
Megan, what?
Hi, Megan.
Real quick, can you hear me? Okay.
I can see and hear you. I can't hear myself.
You can't hear me right now.
But I can hear enough. So.
Well, I'm going to ask you, Megan, we're talking about feeling worthy of sobriety. And I think you're coming up on 2 years. 2 years?
Over 1 year. So it was October 20th of 2020.
Just because you're new, open up to whatever you want. But did you struggle with feeling worthy yourself to be worthy of sobriety, of happiness through sobriety because of your past? Did you struggle with that at all?
Did you say, did I struggle with feeling worthy with my sobriety because of my past?
Yeah, of sobriety, right.
Oh, I still do. Because it's, to me, it's a forgiveness issue. So it's tricky. And I was just listening to something this morning that said something about, blah, blah, blah. I can forgive everyone easily but myself. So it, to me, falls under that umbrella.
That works for me because I can look at.
I'm so sorry I can't hear you well. I wish there's some way I could do subtitles.
Yeah, you can
apologize. I'm going to see. If you don't mind, give me a second because literally.
No, that's fine. Just we'll hop back in when you can. So
because I kind of audio. Let me see.
The other two.
Audio. Well. I'm gonna. Okay. Well, maybe that's one of the phone. Okay. I guess that's how high it goes.
I'm going to pull her out for just a second, but because this is such a professional, situation here with the tens of thousands, is worthiness contingent upon being able to forgive ourselves?
I think so.
Because I'll forgive you all day for everything. I do anything wrong, and I'll beat myself up to know, personally, and I'm not, people, if you were to struggle, if you to have a relapse, which is part of this, and I've done it, I would say, hey, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. And I mean it fully because I don't care what happened yesterday. I care what's happening today and more about what's going to happen tomorrow. That's what matters to me. I'll forgive you. I don't care what's in your heart for tomorrow is all that matters to me. Me, and I'm looking in the mirror, I will beat the living out of myself. I do it all the time. And that's not good because all that's doing is filling me with negative and if I can't clear my own name, I can't give myself a pass to go forward. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that's their, and again, I think that's that worthiness. Well, you know what? Sure, but I'm not talking what Katie did. You want my list of laundry, maybe when I get out of prison in 20 years, then I'm worthy to try this thing. But right now I got way too much penance to pay.
Yeah. And one thing I have learned since I stopped, I don't think I had an appreciation for this as much when I was drinking is, you look at sobriety support groups, and I think we're all familiar with different ones, but take a cross section of any group you want to, and you're going to have people from all over, different backgrounds, different socioeconomic statuses, all across the spectrum. You peel all that away and none of it matters. At the end of the day, we're all dealing with some version of the same shit. And we all want to get to the same place. And I don't care if you make, $15,000 a year or you make $500,000 a year. The problem when you get to the root of it is the same. And we all want the same thing. And, I always say, having drinking issues is the easy part. A lot of people have drinking issues. Think about how many people we know, or at least I know in my social circles that you could probably point to and say, yeah, that kind of reminds me of me. That's the easy part. Like, doing something about it is the hard part, and not a lot of people do that. And so anyone who's making an effort to do that, whether you're on day one for the 45th time, or you're on, day 1,000 or somewhere in between, or you're feeling like you nailed it, or you're feeling like you just can't figure it out. If you're trying to do something about it, you're doing something that not a lot of people can do. Not a lot of people do. And it's hard. It's really hard.
And to add on to that, the reason it's hard is because we've never done it. We've never lived life. And we've drank our way through life, so we don't have to. And now that we're sober, living life is hard. Circumstances suck at times. People die, people leave us, relationships don't work out, accidents happen. I mean, everybody has circumstances, and we all have that. But normal people know how to deal with it because they didn't drink it away. One of the things that really has helped me in my forgiveness of self is a little trick that my sponsor taught me. You know how when you're mad at someone, they say the best way to get through it is to pray for them for every day for 2 weeks or something. She said, I want you to pray to have God show you and view you like he does, or like someone else does. My friend Katie gave me a chip last night, in my AA group. And the things that she said about me, wow, I was like, I want to know that girl. I mean, the way she talked about me gave me goosebumps, brought me to tears, because she sees me very, very differently than I see me. She sees me as this amazing person. And I'm thinking, I got you fooled, because we don't think that of ourselves. So anyway, the little trick is that every day for 2 weeks, pray that God asks you to help you see yourself like Katie sees me, or like Todd sees me, whatever. When you want to help yourself. And my experience is if you pray for it, God's going to give it to you. I mean, if it's in his will, within reason, I guess. But it absolutely works for me, because I don't feel worthy of anything on my own power. The only way that I can get past that unworthiness is relying on God and asking for him to, I don't mean to make it all about God, but asking him to make it change in my mind. And the only way to do that, it's like muscle memory. You have to have some repetitiveness.
It's the muscle memory thing is that I'm finding just one day, and I hate the term, I hate white knuckling. It's too much work for me. And that's what I think you hear about the term a dry drunk, of someone that they stop drinking, but they still try to take on life with their own tools, or the way they've been doing it just without alcohol, which is like, all I've done is just double my chances at failing, or
they're a miserable SOB. Nobody wants to be around them.
All I did was take away the thing that worked for me. And now I'm using the tools that obviously didn't work in the first place. And now I don't have it. So it was a bomb for me. So it's a matter of fixing that part. And that's why I think, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's the piece that is the reason people go back to drinking. That is why they stop, is they still don't know how to face life. They've got to learn some tools. And whether you get those tools in AA or at church or with a group of people who support you, a group like this that you do on a regular basis, however you get tools, whatever your set of tools are, you need some. And if you don't get some, that white knuckling thing that you said means you have no tools. You're not using any sort of recovery, and you're going to go back to drinking. There's almost no doubt in my mind that if you don't have some sort of recovery and working on the things that led you to that life, you're going to return to it.
You know, I was just thinking this morning that the fastest way to see kind of how much you got going on underneath the surface is to stop drinking, because you know, it brings everything to light. And some people have a whole, you know, mountain that they've got to deal with once they stop drinking. Some people have less, but whatever it is, it's gonna come to the surface. And that was one thing I didn't anticipate with quitting drinking. I thought you just kind of quit drinking and you know,
Everything magically gets better.
Yeah, and you
magic.
enjoy waking up
Mhm.
not hungover. You know, all of a sudden it's life staring you right in the face, and there's nowhere to go.
And I don't even want to, I hate to even say this because there's someone that's listening that's debating about quitting drinking. You're just painting a picture of this is even going to be even harder than I thought it was.
Well, I always say, you know, it doesn't, your life doesn't magically get better when you stop drinking. Your stuff is still there. Life still happens. Whatever issues are there are still there. But what changes is your ability to deal with that stuff
Absolutely.
and to see it and to even know where you need to go with it. And it may not seem clearer that day, but it will get clear. It will absolutely get clear. And your ability to handle things. I feel, you know, I'll knock on wood. I mean, I feel so much more capable of handling whatever life is going to throw at me now than I did when I was drinking.
So if someone's looking for those tools and saying, I want to quit tonight, I mean, I don't push any program, but there is, okay, I almost want to say, well, hold on, before you quit and get frustrated, do we need to get other steps involved in how we're going to, because the world's going to turn a little crazy tomorrow?
Here's my example of how that works. Okay. If you imagine Lake Tahoe, it's one of the deepest lakes, big, huge lake, 500 feet deep. Alcohol is like a 2-inch layer of ice on top of Lake Tahoe. You can't get to the real stuff until you get through that ice. So that 2 inches of ice, you have to remove alcohol before you can do it. Megan used to tell me, well, I really like the 12 steps and I really think they're going to work, but I can drink while I do them. Well, you have to remove that layer of ice to get to that 500 feet of depth. And so you're never going to be able to face life until you get through that alcohol. So that has to go first.
And I would say, I don't know how prepared you could be for this, but one thing I wish I knew, if I could rewind back to around like my 4 to 6 month mark, was, you know, it's okay if you feel a little scattered I remember kind of feeling like I was happy with the decision to give up alcohol. I was happy with how I was feeling. I knew deep down it was the right decision for me. But I was also I was just, my brain was scattered. I had thoughts going everywhere. I was still kind of grouchy about not drinking. And I was still a little annoyed that, like, you know, something had been taken from me. Even though I liked that it was gone, I was still a little annoyed that something had been taken from me. And all that's okay. All that's it's just part of the process. That was around the time someone explained to me kind of the giving of alcohol as a legitimate grieving process, which I had never thought of until then. And I thought,
The
oh my
best friend.
God.
It was there for me through a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. I was kind of grieving the loss of something. And once I processed it in those terms, it made it so much, then it started to go away. But it's okay. That's just part of the process. And at the time I thought, what is going on? Why is this not like everything fixed, everything fine, everything great? When I know I've made a good decision, why do I got all this stuff going on in my head? Well, it's part of the process. And if you just got to work through it. And if you do, the other side is priceless. And
I think a lot of people come into recovery and they see maybe the three of us smiling and joking around. They come in probably like all three
Miserable.
of us did on day one, pissed off as hell. I hate this. I'm not here by choice. This is, I am stomping and kicking, and I'm pissed that I have to be here. I know that I need to be here, but I see all three of us smiling and going, "What the hell's going on?"
I thought you guys were lying. I thought it was all fake. That it was part of that picture that you're painting of how sobriety is going to look good, because there's no way you could be having fun sober. I just didn't think it was possible. I thought everybody was lying.
So, Katie, it's funny you say that, because I got to the point where, at one point I realized, okay, everyone who's done this, like, says it's one of the best decisions of their life. I'm like, are they all telling the same lie, or is there something here?
It's
a conspiracy.
Is everyone in on this, and I don't know it yet?
My credit card. As soon as I get my credit card, they're going to say, "Okay, now the truth comes out."
Yeah.
As soon as you get in and they close the door behind you, it's like all the dark secrets.
Joke's on you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you hear that enough, and you think, okay, there's got to be something there. You never hear someone say, I gave up alcohol, and boy, that was a terrible decision. So
I still think it comes back to, well, these three that I'm looking at obviously didn't have the same problem that I did, because they're smiling and happy to be here. So just like, I see someone and I hear, oh, well, they probably had 2 glasses of wine and went, oh gosh, I almost wanted a third this weekend. And I'm going, really? Do you know how many cases of beer I've had since Friday? I'm supposed to be in the room down the hall, because this group of people does not have the same. Sure, they're smiling because they're not, they're giving up 3 sips, their glass and a half of wine. Who cares about that? Mine is different. And I think maybe we all felt that way, or that it's going to be a hell of a lot harder for me than it is for everyone here because they're smiling.
The first AA meeting I ever walked into, I went to prove to my boyfriend that I wasn't an alcoholic. By the way, I didn't go because I really needed it. But I went in there, and everybody in there had different problems than me. That one was a hooker. That one was a drug addict. That one lost her kids. That one, that one's in rehab. All these people who had all these horrible problems that weren't mine. But the next AA meeting about a year later that I went to, when I was ready, when I was done, when I was sick of being that person, and I was sitting in the room with a different set of ears, and rather than noticing those differences, I noticed the things that she said, the woman telling her story. She was homeless. She sold her body for drugs. Way different story than mine. But when she talked, I felt her heart. I felt her feelings. When she talked about how, like Todd just said, how the whole fitting in thing, or you said, hey, people like me better when I'm having alcohol. She had all the same thoughts and feelings and language. They call it the language of the heart. But I felt like she was telling my story with a different set of circumstances. And that's why I went back, is I noticed that similarity. I felt like for the first time in my life, somebody got me. All my therapists all my life never got me, but this girl got me. And so I came back to my second meeting, and another girl, she was 25 and had 5 years. She had never been to a bar. She had never had a legal drink. And I'm like, I got nothing in common with this girl. She doesn't know what problems are, you know? She's happily married and they're getting ready to have a baby. And, you know, just, I got nothing in common with her. But when she talked, I had the same experience. I got what she was saying. I felt that misery. I felt that connection that the same is with you, Jeff, that the minute you and I started talking, we had a connection. We had that, you get me, you know, and that is what kept me coming back.
You know, it's, and Todd, I want to hear what your connection was, but you know, I suffered from panic attacks horribly. I mean, and I was talking to my doctor, great guy. I love the guy, telling me all about, you know, this is why, this is, you need to do this, da, da, da. And I said, well, what do you do when you're at like a meeting at church or something when it hits? Well, I don't know. I don't suffer from them. So, but you, and I was like, well, what the hell? You don't even know what I'm going through. Have you ever experienced one? No, but I've read a lot about it. It's like, do you know what I'm feeling? Well, no, but I've heard, why am I listening to you? But then I talked to some schmo on the street that's crushed with panic attacks and he gets it. That's who I'm getting my healing or connection or whatever you want to say with. And it was the same thing with alcohol. You know, I got my two best buddies. We were talking about this the other day. Best buddies in the world. They don't drink or hardly at all. If I told them, how do you feel after 23 beers? How do you feel about the 24th and your knee? He's like, why would you care if you've had 23? How would you even know? Or why would you even care about the 24th? And it's like, no. That's the most important one in the case. If I don't get it, I'm going crazy. There's gonna be problems. And it's like, are you kidding me? It's like, they don't get it. They can't. And thank God they don't. But they have no clue what that's like. But I found that in here when I talked to someone and said, oh my God, yeah, you and we'd be out on the street in a full brawl over that 24th beer. And then I got hope, and I saw that this person was smiling a little bit and saying it gets better and it's good. And then
It's the same with divorce. You can't talk to a happily married person who's never experienced divorce and try and expect them to understand what it's like going through this, or a death. You know, I have no idea what it's like to lose a spouse to death. So I can't really help you in a grieving group of people who have experienced that, because I don't know what it's like. But I do know what alcoholism is like, and I can completely help every alcoholic, from the bum under the bridge to the celebrities that you named. Any one of them came to me, the answer is always the same, always.
Todd, did you have a person or a moment that hit for you?
You know, when I read Laura McCowan's book, We Are the Luckiest, I think it was around 4 months after I had quit. And I don't even remember if I'd made the decision at that point to give it up for good or not. But I remember reading her book was the first time I thought to myself, holy shit, there's someone else out there who struggles with alcohol in the same way that I do. I mean, I really thought I was the only person on earth who struggled the way I did with alcohol in the way I did, and have since found out that, you know, that's not the case. But yeah, that was probably the first time I felt like, oh my God, there's someone else out there who thinks the same things, who feels the same things. This is crazy. And then as you get deeper into those communities, you realize it's much more common than you think, and it makes you feel makes you feel like you're not on an island. And I think, Katie, to your point about connecting with someone the first time you talk to them, the reason I love people who have given up alcohol is because the instant you meet that person, you've got a connection it's different from your normal everyday connection, and how we form those over time. It's just different. It's more significant. It's something that a segment of the population just doesn't understand, and will never understand. And Jeff, like you said, good for them. But it's just different. It's a more meaningful connection, and that right off the bat, regardless of what other differences you may have with that person, you've got a pretty strong similarity connecting you two. And that's
Yeah,
I love that
I
about
love what you said, because there's people that are shy, maybe anxiety riddled like me, that can't go to a meeting, or don't want to do that, or don't want to get on and talk about it, or whatever. You can get connection, like you said, out of a book. There are, especially in today's world, there are other ways to get connection. I just love that you said that you got it out of the book, because you can read, and just reading going, holy crap, I'm not alone, does not have to be in a group or standing up in front of a meeting or saying, hi, my name's Jeff and I'm an alcoholic, when you don't even know if you believe it, or you're just trying to learn that kind of, you're exploring it. So that's a great point. And just Google sober curious. I don't know, Google anything and you'll find a zillion sources,
One of the things when I got to about the year mark, that I was so grateful for was, and then I all of a sudden got really motivated to kind of tell my story to whoever would listen, because I was so grateful for all the stories I had heard up until that point. And I realized every single one of them, no matter how different in circumstance, every single one of them helped. And it just helps you. It helped me along the path. And I thought, I felt an obligation to pay that back, because it's so valuable, and it makes you feel, if you telling your story helps one person decide to do something, or it helps one person tell their story, it's worth it. But I'm so grateful for anyone who does that and puts it out there, because it's helpful.
The thing about those, Todd, is the bulk of the stories that are out there and have a happy ending. And that's what's on.
They're
Katie's
still
face.
sober.
Look what's on Katie's face right now. And if I can read a story that I resonate, and then I see that on her face, maybe for me,
maybe it's not all one big lie.
Maybe it's not all, and they don't just need a credit card, right? The cult. No, hey, you guys stay on real quick. Thank you both for being here immensely, and we'll talk to you soon. We'll be back Thursday evening, everyone, and take care, and thanks. You guys are the best. So hang on, stay there, and we'll talk soon. Have a great one, everyone. Take care.